Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing you another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at McFarlane's DC Direct, DC Essentials, DCeased Unkillables Red Hood. This is pretty much a zombie version of Red Hood. It should also be able to function as a damaged or beat up version of Red Hood. DCeased is pretty much DC's answer to Marvel Zombies. DC Direct is back, baby. DC Direct died about 2 years ago, and McFarlane is taking all the unreleased, previously designed and showed figures and releasing them, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. At $30 a pop, these guys are not the best value, but I'm still really happy they're out here. I got these figures from Entertainment Earth. They had the entire set, although I noticed they're also in stock at GameStop and the McFarlane Toy Store and Wicked Bazaar. So let's go and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, DC Essentials, Unkillables Red Hood by DC, DC Direct from the source. This is the 36th figure in the DC Essentials line. DCeased. One side of the package, you can see Red Hood, his damaged helmet. On the back, here's Red Hood, and here is the rest of the wave. Deathstroke, Nightwing, and Batgirl. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And I did end up getting 2 of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, and one to keep unopened in my complete, unopened 6 and 7 inch Batman-related action figure collection. And as a side note, I did want to point out, this guy does come with 2 pistols. Warner Brothers has a no-gun mandate. Any officially licensed DC figures are not allowed to come with guns. I assume he's allowed to because of a loophole where this guy was designed before that mandate went into effect. And like I said, I did end up getting the entire set from Entertainment Earth. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with 2 pistols, and that is all of his accessories. Now, you may wonder, how the hell does this Red Hood come with 2 pistols? Warner Brothers has a no-gun mandate. Any officially licensed DC figures cannot come with guns in pretty much any way, shape, or form. At least if the guns look realistic. I believe this guy got around with a loophole because he was designed well before the gun mandate. This figure was shown to us more than 2 years ago, and probably designed about 3 years ago. I believe that's how that works. I could be wrong. But here they are in front of you. A modern 7-inch DC figure with guns. Pretty cool. It's been a while. But before we take a look at those, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Red Hood, Jason Todd. He's from the storyline DCeased. He's basically a zombie version of Red Hood, but in addition to that, he could very easily double up as a battle-damaged or quite beat-up version of Red Hood. So let's take a look. The original DC Essentials Red Hood is one of my favorite DC Essentials figures, and one of my favorite Red Hood figures. Start with his head. As you can see, that classic Red Hood helmet looks fantastic. But if you turn to the other side, it's completely ripped apart. Got what looks like some blood around the rib. You can see Jason Todd's face exposed inside of there. He's angry. You can see his teeth kind of gritting. He's a zombie, but he doesn't fully look like a zombie. Could just be a really beat up Jason Todd. He's got the red bat symbol on his chest, biker leather jacket. Jacket looks a little darker than what came before. He's got blood around the bat symbol, some scratches here on his bat symbol. Going further down, he's got the 2 hands. They're not trigger holding hands, but they do still hold his guns. He's got blood all over him. You can see the holsters for pistols, some more scratches on his pants, double jointed knees, double jointed elbows. I would say it's a fantastic looking figure. Great follow-up to the original DC Essentials Red Hood. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt, which I would say is fantastic. And just like most of the other DC Essentials figures, his hands come out really easily. You can pop them out without heating them up. His head, on the other hand, that doesn't pop off easily. I remember the previous DC Essentials Red Hood, his head came off no problem. Now let's look at his guns. He has 2 of them. They're exactly the same. Nothing really crazy special going on here. Made of a pretty hard plastic. Silver and black. Pretty good amount of scope and detail on this thing. And as expected, they're identical to the pistols that came with the previous DC Essentials Red Hood. Maybe the silver is slightly darker. Here's Red Hood holding his pistols. This Red Hood doesn't come with the traditional gripping hands with the trigger finger. This guy has some more zombie type hands, but they do hold the pistols pretty nicely. I was a little concerned when I first saw them. Now a zombie using guns, it's kind of a different type concept. I mean, honestly, it just looks like this Red Hood is pissed up, beat up, and he's out for revenge. I get that vibe, more so than a zombie vibe off this figure. And here he is, holstering his pistols. I wanted to check out the differences between this DCeased Red Hood and the original DC Essentials Red Hood, besides the obvious paint differences. Obviously his known has some blood painted over him, but it goes a little bit more than just that. So, this new one has a completely different head sculpt. His jacket is a lot darker than the old one, and then of course he's got blood and scratches on his chest. The hands are different hands, got blood on them, and they're, I don't know, more of grabbing hands, zombie type hands, whereas his are gripping, trigger finger hands. And he's got a little scratch here. Those are the overall differences between the 2 figures. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 6.8 inches tall, which is going to translate to about 17 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side. He can look up, about that far, quite impressive, and down that far, also very impressive. Took a little bit of force, but he's got a very wide range of motion on his head here. Cannot really tilt it from side to side too much. Shoulders on the ball joint goes out a little bit less than 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows, they go all the way in. His wrists can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. He's got a traditional ab crunch here. Goes in about that far, up about that much, waist swivel below that. His legs on ball joints can pretty much do splits. Go forward about that much, back not much at all. He's got a thigh cut, double jointed knees, boot cut, and his ankle's a ball in it. Goes forward and back, rotate, tilt, rock. Here's Red Hood out in the streets of Gotham. He's being attacked by zombies from all directions. Has no idea what's going on, and is very surprised. He's got to go back and tell Batman what he's seen. Here back at the Batcave, he comes in and finds Batman, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl all in front of the Batcomputer. He's eager to tell Bruce what has happened, what he's seen in the city. The heroes are quite unresponsive, and I think that's a little bit odd. He notices Batgirl has blood on her glove, and Nightwing has this large gash across his head. He realizes something is wrong. As soon as Red Hood starts to realize something is wrong, starts to back away, our heroes turn around. They all start snarling at him. They're hungry. They're craving human flesh. Red Hood realizes they're all infected. Barbara, Bruce, Damian, and Dick. He warns them not to approach. They don't appear to understand. They keep edging toward him. He fires a couple of shots into Batman and Nightwing. Doesn't feel very good about it, but they just keep coming. Red Hood jumps onto the Batcycle and gets the hell out of the Batcave. After Red Hood escapes the Batcave, he's safe for a little while. But shortly, he gets overrun by some zombie cops and heroes, thus turning Red Hood into a zombie. An unkillable zombie. And of course, on the other side of things, you could very easily use this as a regular Jason Todd, who is brutally beat up by the Joker. Here's the bloodied up Mortal Kombat Joker beating Jason Todd with a crowbar. Not the first time this has happened to him. Now let's check him out next to some of their action figures, starting off with some of their DC Direct, DC Essentials figures. Here he is, next to the standard DC Essentials Red Hood. It's one of the nicest DC Essentials figures they made, and frankly it's one of the nicest Red Hood figures out there. Definitely DC Direct's best Red Hood offering. Here's Red Hood next to the rest of this wave of DC Essentials DCeased figures. Nightwing, Red Hood, Deathstroke, and Batgirl. Now looking at these things, this is probably the very last offering we'll get from DC Direct in the traditional form. Sure, McFarlane is continuing the DC Direct line with their page punchers, but they're essentially just McFarlane DC Multiverse figures in different packaging and presentation. This is probably the very end of the DC Direct line. Although I wouldn't be shocked if McFarlane releases the last few animated figures that we saw years ago. Nothing official has been confirmed. These are the last officially announced DC Direct figures as of now. Then, here's Red Hood next to the previous wave of DCeased figures in the DC Essentials line. These figures were also distributed by McFarlane Toys. Both this wave and Red Hood's wave were previously designed and showed by DC Direct, but when DC Direct crumbled, they never made it out. I think it's really cool McFarlane is doing this now. And here's Red Hood with the first wave of DC Essentials DCeased figures. These came out a good 2 years ago. These were released and distributed by DC Direct. This was the final wave before DC Direct folded. Here's the entire collection of DC Direct, DC Essentials DCeased figures. We have 12 of them. I would love for more to come, but I don't expect it. Now let's go down the DC Essentials memory lane. Here's Red Hood, next to the figures I got from the first series, Rebirth Batman and Rebirth Deathstroke. Then, next to the DC Essentials figures from Series 3, Batgirl, Nightwing, Joker, and Harley Quinn. Here's Red Hood next to Cheetah, the only figure I got from Series 4. Then they released the Red Hood figure. He was the first, and I believe only DC Essentials figure that came by himself without a traditional wave. Then they released these Nightfall figures, which are absolutely fantastic. And then they released this Rebirth Batman 2.0 and New 52 Nightwing. Both the Nightfall and Rebirth 2.0 Batman are definitely my top 10 Batman figure list. These were the final figures before they released the DCeased figures, which was their last wave. And while these Doomsday Clock figures are not technically part of the DC Essentials line, I consider them to be an offshoot of that line, as they use the same body style and articulation. Now, some of the complaints I've heard about the DC Essentials line over the years is their arms are too long, and I really think that argument has been blown out of proportion. I don't think the arms are that long. My arms hang down to my legs around the same point as the DC Essentials figures. The other complaint, the ton of reuse they use. The majority of the male figures in the DC Essentials line all use the same body. Here are all the figures that I have that use the same base body buck. There could be some subtle differences, different forearms or hands, but it's all based off the same buck. And there are more figures like this. Flash, Reverse Flash, Sinestro. But you know what? It works. They all look pretty cool and clean in a big line. Now let's check them out. Next to some of the Red Hood figures. Here he is, with all of my different DC Direct and DC Collectibles Red Hood figures. Then, next to the McFarlane DC Multiverse Red Hood figures. And here, with my Mattel Red Hood figures. Then, next to an amazing Yamaguchi Red Hood. And now, next to a custom Red Hood I made many years ago. Here are all the different Red Hood figures that I have, and I believe I have them all in the 6 and 7 inch scale. And just because those are all the Red Hood figures that I have, doesn't mean there are not other Jason Todd figures out there. Here's this Unkillables Red Hood, next to 3 different Arkham Knight figures. In the game Arkham Knight, the Arkham Knight was Jason Todd. Here's Jason Todd as Batman from Batman Reborn. Here are a couple of Jason Todd as Hush figures. Then, here are a couple of Jason Todd and Civilian Attire figures that I made. These are both some custom head swaps for the 7-inch and 6-inch scale. When Jason Todd came back from the dead, he donned the identity Red Hood more or less to mock the Joker. The Joker was Red Hood before he became the Joker. Since the Joker killed Jason Todd, he took up the mantle of Red Hood to sort of mock the Joker before he got his revenge. Here he is, next to a couple of Joker as the Red Hood figures. Here's his Unkillables Red Hood, next to the Red Hood gang. This Red Hood reminds me of this McFarlane Fortnite Inferno figure. They both have these sort of red helmets or domes on, and they're both bow damaged on the left-hand side. Now let's check him out, next to some other zombie figures that I have. Here he is, next to a couple of Palisades Resident Evil zombie cops. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling zombies. And here, next to a Jazzwares Fortnite Ghoul Trooper, another zombie figure. And even though these Robin Crows aren't exactly zombie Robins, they're pretty similar. They're actually not that far off from zombie Robins though. And even though they're not zombie figures, I kind of get some zombie vibes of these McFarlane infected figures. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a DC Direct figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. But first, we're going to check him out with some of his DC Direct brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figures, all from DC Direct, all 7-inch scale. And now, next to some Jakks Pacific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST, or Diamond Select toys. Then, with some McFarlane toys. And here, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, with some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here he is, with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, he's a very nice figure. Kinda gimmicky being a zombie, but he looks fantastic, and he's going to double up great for a battle-damaged Red Hood. This guy's accessories are cool. First time we've seen guns in a DC figure in a long time. His articulation is everything you'd expect from a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Sculpt and paint job are excellent, no issues there. Head looks fantastic. If I were to rate this guy, I'd give him a very solid 8 out of 10, enjoying him more than I expected to. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say with the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.